You know, at all hours of the day, Donald Trump is sending messages like the ones I'm about to show you. But then I want to contrast it to what President Biden is talking about today, when President Biden's talking about climate change, lowering prescription drug prices, supporting our democracy. It's important that we remember what politics is actually supposed to be about, not the cosplay fascism that has become the Republican Party with the MAGA takeover that corporate media just loves to amplify. Not here on the MeidasTouch network. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump is saying. None of this is normal. Donald Trump posts or messages, "Do you love America? Because I've got the perfect hat for you." So if you want to prove you love America, here's what you need to do. Would Ben wear this MAGA hat? And it has the American flag, but with the letters MAGA. Then you can order the MAGA hat for $1,000, of course, or $500. You could qualify to get the hat for $47, but if you want the hat, that would be $1,000. Donald Trump emails the following at 4:28 a.m. 4:28 a.m. he emails, "Call off the dogs." And then he brags. He goes, "I have," and he puts this in all caps, "total immunity on official acts, but Crooked Joe refuses to call off his dogs. Ben, I'm asking you to step in, help force his hand, and make him end these witch hunts once and for all." And you click on the button, drop all charges, and then you somehow have to pay Donald Trump $3,300 or $1,000 or some significant amount of money. That's how you can help drop the charges, apparently, by paying all of that money. It's part of Donald Trump's grift. Then he has this other one where he goes, "totally immune." And then he goes, "I need to hear from you." And then he says that he's going to try to get the Bergdorf case, which by that he means the one where he was found liable by a jury for sexually assaulting a woman. He calls that the Bergdorf case, and he somehow claims that that's an official act of the presidency. According to the leader of the Republican Party, sexual assault is an official act of the presidency, is what he's saying. Then he goes, "The Manhattan scam cooked up by Soros-backed Alvin Bragg, making hush money payments and falsifying business records," Trump is saying, is an official act of the presidency. And then he says, "Racist Tish James' shameless attack on the amazing businesses I built, fraudulently inflating your personal properties," he says, is an official act of the presidency. So what Donald Trump has turned the presidency into, and what the Supreme Court has endorsed, is a Ponzi scheme, just like the Trump Organization and the businesses that Trump runs that have been found criminally liable for tax fraud, civilly liable for fraud, and he's been found personally liable in a civil case for sexual assault and criminally liable on a personal basis for falsification of business records, and he claims all of that is part of the presidency. Now, imagine your kids and grandkids and family members and future generations going to school and learning about the presidency, and that apparently the official acts of the presidency involve sexually assaulting women. That's what the modern-day Republican Party embraces. Oh, you know what they also embrace? An actual revolution. The author of Project 2025 just gave an interview where he said that the MAGA, is leading a revolution right now, which they say it could get violent, but they said that it will be up to the left, they say, if their revolution is going to be violent. This is the leader of the Heritage Foundation leading the MAGA Project 2025, but no, the corporate media isn't going to talk about this. Let me show you this clip. Let's play it.
That we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
What the corporate media is going to talk about, though, is they're going to cherry pick their own polls, and they're going to viciously attack President Biden, who's done a great job as president. He had an awful debate. He did. We called it out in real time. We don't mince our words. We're not going to pretend he did well on the debate. did bad in the debate, but he at least tried to answer the questions truthfully that were asked. Donald Trump didn't do good on the debate. Donald Trump wouldn't accept a peaceful transition of power, which should be disqualifying in and of itself. He literally lied every 15 seconds, lie after lie after lie, and looked and sounded like a maniac. And undecided and independent voters were aware of that. I hate polls. I don't like to talk about polls, but purely for the fact that the corporate media wants to cherry pick theirs, want to take a look at, just take a look at this. In the TIP, which is an A+ poll, one of the most credible top polls out there, Biden, after the debate, is leading 43 to 41%. Now you can say, well, some of the debate was taken after, some of the poll was taken after the debate, some of the poll was taken before, so not all of it was taken after the debate, even though a lot of it was. Oh, okay. It's still reflective of Biden up 43 to 41 and not some sort of blowout that you say exists. And then with the corporate media putting all of their fanciful hypotheticals and not explaining how it would even work, but just interested in throwing the Democratic Party into chaos with unnamed sources. If you look at the Reuters Ipsos poll, which again is a top poll, Biden and Trump are even at 40%. The next is Trump-Harris, which Trump would have a 1-point lead. Trump has a 3-point lead over Gavin Newsom, a 6-point lead over Gretchen Whitmer, a 6-point lead over Governor Pritzker, and a 4-point lead over Bashir. Now, lots of people don't have name recognition yet or, haven't gone out and campaigned, so there's a lot of variables for it. But my point is, if you're going to cherry pick your own things, why don't we actually take a look at the data? And the data was also that a lot of undecideds taken after the debate itself also showed that a lot of the undecideds were actually moving in favor of President Biden because he wasn't lying lie after lie after lie. So if we're talking about like the data doesn't meet the narrative. And also, if you want to talk about the narrative, how about what I've just showed you all here in the first 7 minutes or so of this video of the Trump plan to have a revolution? That's what they're saying. And that it could get violent if the left doesn't accept the violent takeover. How Trump is bragging about king-like absolute immunity. I mean, I showed you other posts in previous days where Donald Trump was saying that he wants to have military tribunals on live television for people like Republican Liz Cheney. I mean, look, Kyle Sweetser, who's a former Trump voter, I had him on the show, he says about the Heritage Foundation threats, this looks like a violent threat. Last week, the Heritage Foundation came out and said they are ditching conservatism and replacing it with Trumpism. Heritage writes, most of Trump's policy controls Trump. Foreign influence from Hungary is pouring into America. The corporate media doesn't cover any of that. Meanwhile, what's President Biden talking about? If President Biden writes, if Big Pharma refuses to lower prescription drug prices and end their greed, we will do everything within our power to end it for them. At Senator Bernie Sanders and I will not rest until every American can afford the prescriptions they need to lead healthy, happy, and productive lives. And they wrote an op-ed talking about how there is no rational reason why Americans for decades have been forced to pay by far the highest prescription drugs in the world that they need. President Biden writes, 60 years ago, President Johnson signed into law the Civil Rights Act of 1964, one of the most significant pieces of legislation in United States history. Today, we continue the work that the act began and stand together, choosing community over chaos. President Biden writes, there is no reason why 1 out of 4 Americans is unable to afford their medicine. Because of my Inflation Reduction Act, seniors and Medicare recipients are paying no more than $35 a month for insulin. And in January, no senior will pay over $2,000 a year for their prescriptions. In addition, President Biden's PACT Act has led to over 1 million claims being processed for life-saving care for our veterans who would never have been able to get that care but for the legislation signed into law and championed by President Biden. On the other hand, Donald Trump stopped bipartisan immigration because Trump wanted to create chaos at the border, knowing that corporate media would just say, oh, there's all this chaos. Let's blame President Biden for it. Let's blame the guy trying to come up with the solutions rather than the arsonist who's bragging about inflicting pain on we the people so that he can run on our pain. The one thing Trump's right about, though, is that the corporate media would run it over and over again and doesn't give a crap about our health, about our money, about how we're treating, about our wages. Corporate media doesn't care about that. They're more into Trump's camp. They want the tax cuts for themselves. They're in that tax bracket, but we, the people, need to recognize what is happening. President Biden also posted the following. Today, I signed the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act, a law that will help prevent, treat, and cure Parkinson's disease and similar disorders. This law is about dignity, and it gives people hope that we can end this cruel disease and that we can still do big things. President Biden posts, communities in every corner of our country are being directly impacted by the compounding effects of extreme weather, from heat and floods to wildfires. Today, I received an operational briefing on extreme weather outlooks so that my administration remains ready to respond. On the one hand, President Biden believes in climate change and ways to combat it. On the other hand, Donald Trump does not believe that climate change is a real thing. Here's what President Biden said today about climate change. Play this clip.
Unfortunately, my predecessor and the MAGA Republicans in Congress are trying to undo all this progress. They still deny climate change even exists. They deny climate change even exists. They must be living in a hole somewhere at the expense of health and safety of their own constituents. They deny it exists. Every single congressional Republican voted against the investments which created these jobs and combat climate change. Many of them are trying to repeal those climate provisions and kill those jobs. I quite frankly think it's not only outrageous, it's really stupid. Everyone who willfully denies the impacts of climate change is condemning the American people to a dangerous future, and either is really, really dumb or has some other motive of that. How can you deny there's climate change, for God's sake?
Here's what Donald Trump said about climate change on Friday. Play the clip.
Now, that's only reporting, who knows, but they were very serious. It's called weather. The risk is weaponry. The risk is nuclear warming. And
well, I think that that speaks for itself right there. Finally, President Biden writes, nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol to stop the peaceful transfer of power. Because of the Supreme Court's decision, the American people will have to do what the court should have been willing to do but will not. The American people will have to render a judgment about Donald Trump's behavior. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers together. Thank you for watching.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.